For the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to give you an overview of what we do in ICBF. We're not on the go as long as Bayer are, but we are nearly 20 years in operation. And I suppose what we're trying to achieve, I suppose, is to try and achieve a more sustainable, profitable dairy and beef industry through the use of genetics, and genetic gain. So the title of the presentation is How ICBF and Cattle Genetics Are Changing the Sustainability Game. And these are the topics I'm going to cover, just the role and the makeup of the organisation, the national database that we work with and how it links with the industry around the country, the Beef and Eurostar Index, which is our genetic evaluation. So we evaluate every animal on its genetics, and we call it the Eurostar Index. And then what the impact of the index is in Ireland, and also the areas that we're focused to try and drive innovation and change. So ICBF was set up in 2000 by the government with the aim of centralising all the data that you can see there and all the dots around the country. They were all the various organisations that were involved in cattle breeding. So you had the AI companies, the milk recording organisations, all the dairy and beef pedigree herd books, and the farm organisation representatives as well. So you had over 30 different bodies, all spread throughout the country. Now we're located in one location, and all those organisations use the database to drive their business. So we have a revenue of about 7 million a year. That income is made up of coming from two sources, I suppose. One is industry, good source, so we'll say that the department would fund it, but also farmers fund the database. So every animal has a tag in their ear in this country, and every farmer pays a levy towards the running of this organisation. And the other half of the income then comes from the services that we offer. So the milk recording, AI services, and also the HerdPlus service that we offer farmers, and that's the area that I'm directly involved with. So the makeup and the sharing out of the database, you can see it's made up of the AI companies, milk recording, herd books, and farm org. So it's very much a stakeholder-driven organisation. So and it's farmer-owned and farmer-controlled. And that's one of the beauties of our database. It's not owned by any one private organisation. Every farmer has a stake in the organisation. So our role, it's really to focus on genetic improvement as a tool for improving future profits on Irish cattle farms, and be that through healthier animals, more resistant to diseases, better milk, better fertility, and rearing a more sustainable animal. So we were established to maintain and operate the national database for all the performance data. So every bit of performance data on every animal is stored with us. We also define the breeding goals for the country, and we use that through the selection indexes we have. In the dairy, it's called the EBI index. I'm going to focus just on the beef one, which is the Eurostar index. We provide routine genetic evaluations for all breeds. So it's not just one breed, it's a multi-breed evaluation system. So all breeds can be compared against each other. And also, I suppose, we're there to ensure that there's a breeding scheme of optimal design running in the country. And we call that scheme the Gene Ireland programme, where we breed the next generation of bulls for farmers to use. And also making sure that all the improvements that we make are all based on science. So there's an image of what the Irish database looks like from an industry links point of view. So when we were set up first day, it was very much just farmer, department, AI orgs, milk recording, and herd books. But since its establishment and over the 20 years, all the other various industry partners have come on board. So, for example, you'll see the slaughter factories. So all the factories around the country provide us with all the data on a daily basis after each animal is killed, their grade, their weight, and all the health data that comes from it. So liver fluke, lung diseases, all that information flows back in. Similarly, the cattle marts. So when an animal is traded through a mart, its weight and price come into the system as well. And that data is used in the genetic evaluations, which we run 3 to 4 times a year. Okay. Similarly, milk processors, we capture all the milk data from the processors. And the Animal Health Ireland, that's an organisation that are tasked with implementing national programmes to try and eradicate diseases. So, for example, we have a BVD programme here in this country to try and eradicate BVD. And similarly, we're operating IBR schemes, Johne's disease schemes. And Animal Health Ireland use the ICBF database as their tool to ensure that happens. Yes, no problem.
So, is this the data that's coming back for the purebred animals or all?
Every animal.
And back to sire and dam?
Yes. We have
EID?
Not through EID, no, but every animal in the country is registered with a tag, okay? And that information is recorded on the CDFM, on the Department of Agriculture database. It's a fully traceable database, but we share that information, or they share that information with us. So it's a replica of their database. So every animal in the country is traceable from birth to slaughter or export. Okay? So similarly, vets and the veterinary labs also interact with us. And organisations then like Borbia, we help with the data to drive their sustainability program that they offer as well. And Chagas are the research and also the extension arm in this country where they try and transfer knowledge from the research phase into the implementation phase. And they use our tools and reports to try and drive that innovation at farm level. So what kind of data are we using? And we're dealing with over 100,000 herds, and it's every animal in the country is on the system. We're dealing with over 6 million live animals. We have over 2 million calvings every year, 2.6 million milk recordings. The movements, so animals move from farm to farm or through marts, that's the 7 million movements a year. Inseminations, the AI data, the slaughter data, over 2 million animals slaughtered through the factories. And the BVD records are the same as the calving records. For every calving, there's a BVD record, so every animal has to be tested for BVD. So, it really is, millions and millions of records on an annual basis. But I suppose that all pales into insignificance if you look at the kind of data we're dealing with over the last number of years since we took on the Beef Data and Genomics Programme, where we're genotyping over 300,000 animals every year. So back in 2015, we had 8.6 billion genotype SNP records on the database. Now we're close to 80 billion records on our database. So it's growing at a huge rate, and keeping on top of it is a challenge. Our system, our database in Bandon is one of the biggest Oracle database that's operated, certainly in Ireland, and it's one of the top ones in Europe as well. So a lot of data being stored. So what does that allow us to do? Well, essentially we generate a Eurostar index for every beef animal in the country. So every animal would have a picture. You get a picture of that. You get a replacement index and a terminal index. The replacement index is the one we use for females, okay, and that's the one I'm going to focus on. It's a profit index. So what that €80 for that particular animal means, it's €80 more profitable per calving than the base animal, okay? And that can change. You could have an animal at 20, 30, 40. It depends on how it is relative to the base. And then we have a star rating system as well. We put that star rating on just to, I suppose, for ease of, so for farmer uptake, so they can understand that a 1 star is in the bottom 20%, a 5 star is in the top 20% of animal. And we do that within breed, so within the pedigree breeds, and also across all breeds. So on the left, you have a within breed star rating, and on the right, you have an across breed star rating. Okay? So again, two main indexes, and it includes all breeds. So, and what goes into making up the replacement index? Well, essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to breed a more profitable beef cow that has a weaned calf every year, right, with good weight and good quality, all right? And to do that, we're trying to have less calving difficulty with cows that, require less feed, so less feed intake, with higher carcass weight, better milk, better fertility, and are more docile, okay? Docility is an important part of it as well. And they're the relative weightings that we have included in the index. So, sorry, skipped on there. That's just an example of the active bull list. So they're all the AI bulls that well, not all, but that's a snapshot of the top 30 AI bulls. And you'll see that there's a big variation of the different breeds. So the top two there are Salaires, followed by Simmental, Limousin, Belgian Blue. So each breed is representative. So the 252 and the 203 and the 192, I suppose they're comparable. Even though they're from different breeds, it's a comparable index. So farmers know when they're buying a bull, an AI bull, what their replacement index and what their potential is to pass on to the progeny of that bull. And essentially what we're trying to do is achieve more 5-star cows in the country. And that's with better milk, better fertility. What we would hope to achieve then is that when that's crossed with a 5-star terminal bull, that you're going to produce progeny that are going to be better weight for age, better feed efficiency, etc. And essentially more profit back in the farmer's pocket. So are we making progress? So look, the trends in the national data over the last number of years are quite positive. So you'll see from our initial beginnings there in 2000, right up to 2012, we were actually making very little, and actually the progress was in decline on the maternal traits. Our focus very much was on terminal traits, and we were achieving that, but at the detriment of the maternal traits. So cows were less fertile with less milk to breed their replacement. So since the introduction of the BVD, or the BDGP scheme, the Beef Data and Genomics Programme, we've been able to turn that ship around to a large degree. So our calves per cow per year has moved from 0.8 of a calf per cow per year up to 0.87. Our calving interval days has decreased, and also our age at first calving has improved. Now, we still have a long ways to go. Those figures still have to improve dramatically and have a lot of room for improvement. But the trend is very positive. And look, there is clear evidence beef farmers are responding to the initiatives of the Eurostar and genotyping element of the programme. So looking at more validation work which we've done, we did some validation on 46 suckler herds in conjunction with Chagas, which involved over 7,000 cows. And essentially you'll see the breakdown there between the 5-star animal and the 1-star animal. Okay? And you can clearly see that on the replacement index there was €136 of a difference between the 5-star and the 1-star. And you can see the resultant benefits. So again, weaning weight, 26 kilos heavier at weaning weight. Carcass weight, 13 kilos. Days to produce that carcass, 6 days less. So again, all the metrics going in the right direction. But again, the beauty of it is not only that, like you're also reducing the CO2 levels by breeding more 5-star animals. 550 kilos less CO2 in the lifetime of the 5-star animal versus the 1-star animal. So I suppose breeding for profit is also breeding for a more sustainable and efficient animal. Here are two examples of reports. One there is the HerdPlus report, which we develop for the beef farmer, which goes out after every evaluation, and it gives them a picture of where they're at from a genetic point of view. On the right is the Borbia report, which we help to produce through the use of our data included with farmer data that they capture as well. And what they're able to produce is how much carbon each farmer is producing. Okay, and when we combine the genetics with the actual CO2 emissions, you can clearly see, well, yes, it does look like a big blob of dots. They're all the farmers in the country. you'll clearly see, though, that there is a trend, okay? So while the average currently is around €82 for the national herd, you can clearly see that if we can move up to a €200 figure, you're going to bring your CO2 emissions from 11.6 kilos down to 10 kilos. So you're looking at, on average, a 14% reduction in CO2 emissions if we can achieve that kind of genetic gain. Can that happen? Yes, of course it can happen. Will it take 15 years? Well, look, we really need to shorten that process because, it's really imperative because, at the EU level, there's more and more pressure coming on us to achieve higher carbon efficient animals. So what areas are we looking at and focusing in to try and drive some of that innovation? As I said, the Beef Data Genomics program is a huge driver of that change. We recently launched a weight recording, well, the government, should I say, in the latest budget, launched a weight recording pilot, which we're going to be front and centre of. There's a green breed project, DNA-based calf registration, health and disease trials, and some meat eating quality. And I'll go into each of those in detail, or in small detail, should I say. So currently, look, 12% of the global greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. But about 33% of that is the figure here in Ireland. Okay, so cattle obviously are the worst offenders. One solution is just to cut the cattle herd. Okay, but really the Irish solution, what we want to try and do, is to try and breed more sustainable animals. Okay, and the BDGP program was primarily aimed at trying to achieve that. So it was sold the scheme was sold on the basis of climate change benefits. And the primary aim is to breed a more profitable, sustainable, carbon-efficient cow. So it's a 300 million fund, okay, and it's EU funded and state funded, okay, and it's a 6-year program running up to 2020, and farmers are paid €90 a cow, okay, to complete some key actions in the scheme, and that's essentially to target 50% of their herd must be 4 or 5 star by the year 2020. So to achieve that, they need to be using 5-star bulls and 4 and 5-star AI bred AI. They also need to record data, lots of data, so scour and ammonia, calf quality, calf vigour, all that kind of information has to be recorded on every animal as well. So there's 23,000 suckler herds involved in the programme and over 500,000 cows, right? So to date, we have over 1.4 million animals genotyped, so an awful lot of very useful information now going into the evaluations. And the cost of that at the moment is €22. And with improvements in technology and that, we're hoping to get that down. I mean, when it started initially, I remember paying €50 to genotype one of my cows. So we're down at less than half of that. And again, maybe in the next year or two, that'll be down at €20. And our aim is to get it below 15. Sorry.
Paying that, the cost?
The cost of the €22 is being netted out of their overall figure, so the farmer is paying for it, okay? But they have to do 60% of their reference population to get the 90. Exactly, okay. So, and look, other countries are looking at introducing similar schemes as well because it is working and the benefits, as you can see, if we can achieve those kind of reductions in carbon emission at European level, it would make a huge difference to the sustainability of beef. In the budget, which was there last Tuesday, the government launched a new Beef Environmental Efficiency Pilot, or BEEP. So BEEPs, we're in the BEEPs game. So essentially what the scheme is going to achieve is 500,000 animals, suckler cows and their calves will be weighed, okay, every year. So that's going to make a huge difference to the quality of the genetic evaluations that we produce. We'll really be able to identify what animals are, the real heavy, the big heavy cows that are less efficient, but also the ones that are the smaller cows, but they're also breeding a very high quality weanling. What we don't want to do is reduce the cow and also reduce the weaning. We want to reduce cow size, but still, improve the quality of the weanling it's producing. So I suppose more from less, essentially, is what it's trying to achieve. And for that, each farmer will get a €40 payment to weigh their calves and cows. The other project we're involved with is the Green Breed program. It's a Teagasc driven program, but our database again is going to be front and centre of the initiative. And again, it's to develop tools and resources to improve the environmental footprint of the country. €3 million going into it, and essentially, as I said, there is a variation between animals and between breeds, and it's to try and, I suppose, achieve, get the optimum between, your carbon emission, your weanling weight, your cow size, and so there is an opportunity to breed more climate-efficient cows. You'll see the image there at the bottom. That's a methane hood. It's one of the hoods that we have in our Tully beef station. We have a beef research station, and that's a methane hood. And there's 3 or 4 more hoods been bought on the back of this Green Breed project. So again, lots more data we're going to get, and that again will be built into the evaluation system. DNA-based calf registration. This year we undertook a pilot where 18 herds were involved, and 2,000 calves were registered with just the snip from the ear. Okay, with the tag, the calf was tagged, that piece of DNA went off to the lab, and that calf got a registration on the back of that. All the farmer had to record was the date of birth. From the database, we predicted what the sire was, what the dam was, what the sex of the animal was, and what the breed of the animal was. Okay? And all that was done in a 14-day turnaround time. And there were all the benefits. Not only do you get your parentage verified, you get genomic evaluation, major gene, herd book, pedigree registration, the whole lot done in a 14-day window. And we're also rolling out a further pilot this autumn, and we hope to have that based on a farmer recording the information on an app out on farm. And again, we would hope that in time, maybe 2 or 3 years, that this will become more of a national program, and that we'll have full DNA-based traceability to offer our beef industry. Some of the health and disease traits that we record, so farmers are currently recording, I suppose, primarily in the dairy, mastitis and lameness information, and I suppose more so in the beef, the pneumonia and scour. So we have all that data for every animal for herds that are in the BDHP program. The factory data, again, comes from every herd. Okay, so liver fluke data, lung diseases, TB data, that's coming from the factories, from every animal that's slaughtered. And again, we were able to develop breeding values on each of those traits. So this is an example of the TB prevalence of some of the Frisian sires with reliability over 90%. So any herds that have been depopulated or whatever from a TB point of view, you can clearly see there that there's a spread and a clear trend there of bulls. So there's bulls that we can breed that are far more resistant to TB than on the right of your screenshot there. So there's bulls up at 0.1 and bulls down at minus 0.1 from a breeding value point of view. So if we were to, we'll say, extrapolate that out and look at the variation from the bull with the minus figure to the plus figure, you're looking at a kind of a 3% expected prevalence of TB from progeny from one of those bulls, and a 10% prevalence with the other bull. So again, we can breed a more resilient, resistant type of animal just by looking at and evaluating their DNA. Here's a very good example here of a slide, and you'll see, well, most of the bulls in the country, they're below 15% prevalence. You can really see where the outliers are, and they're certainly the bulls that we don't want to be breeding from. And if we can capture this information at birth through the DNA, then we don't have to, those bulls will never end up as beef bulls, stock bulls, or AI bulls. You can see there, one of the bulls there was up at 40% prevalence. So his daughters and his progeny, whenever a herd had an outbreak of TB, 40% of his progeny had TB. And that particular bull was also one of the worst bulls when it came to somatic cell count as well. So there is a very high correlation as well between the various diseases. Okay. Finally, the meat-eating quality trait. That's another new trait that we want to try and build into the index. We're analysing for tenderness, juiciness, and flavour. Okay. And to date, we have about 2,000 animals analysed. They go through a trained panel analysis. So OLAS are the company that do the analysis of the data for us. And we have about 14,000 records currently being evaluated. And again, initial parameters are showing a significant opportunity there of increasing the meat eating quality through the genetics. And the correlations there are pretty high. So currently, our 5-star animals are returning more tender meat than our 1-star animals. So the target, I suppose, is hopefully to release that later on in the year. And we're working closely with Meat Technology Ireland. They're the organisation tasked with this, and we're working closely with them, and our database is front and centre again. If you look here, that's just an example of the different breeds. So we've on the tenderness scale there, you'll see on the left, and there are the various breeds on the right. So as you would expect, the Angus or Hereford are typically known as being, tender for their meat. But I suppose within all the breeds, so if you look at, we'll say, the Charolais there, for example, okay, not as tender on average as a breed, but within the breed, there's up at the top there, there's some, animals within that breed that are as good, if not better, than the Angus or the Hereford. So it's about identifying the ones that are at the top of all those scales and breeding for those. Okay, so to summarise, beef breeding in Ireland, it is delivering. Our goal now is to increase the genetic gain to that €200 figure that I said. Is it going to take 15 years? Well, we're committed to making sure that it isn't. We need to drive on with our various initiatives to try and speed that process up. So with the current and future programs that the government are going to deliver on, they are committed to making sure that we're achieving those goals. Our DNA calf registration, it offers a major opportunity for us to increase the reliability in our evaluations. But also, I suppose, from a marketing point of view of Irish beef abroad, having a DNA-based traceability system will surely add as well to the marketability of our beef. Weaning efficiency, again, that's going to come on the back of all the weights. We're going to be able to breed a more efficient weanling. And ICBF, while we're driving change in the beef industry, look, being a disruptor and in all the tools that we're using, I suppose it's not without some industry. Not everyone is overly gone, and some of the things that we're doing within the industry, and it is driving change. But look, if you look at the metrics, they are moving in the right direction. So we're happy that we're on the right track, and we are bringing. It's a very much of a collaborative organisation, and we're trying to bring all the breeds and all the industry along the one path. So that's my presentation. Thanks for your time.